Hi, my name is Manpreet, pronounced she, her. I studied in associate psychology at CapU, and currently am VP external at CSU. Well, I'm always interested in learning about people and myself, so ultimately I want to get into veterinary school, but you have to do undergrad for that in any related subject, and I feel like since dealing with pets is also dealing with people who are their owners, and I chose psychology so that I'd have like a better understanding of people in general. So the CSU is a non-profit organization that is run by students and is for students. Our fees comes from the students. When you pay tuition fee, there's a little amount that's for CSU. It's based on how many credits you take. So that's like there's a base fee, and then it depends on how many credits you take. That's basically most of the budget for CSU. And the CSU does events for students. It provides services like community cupboard, food bank, and then like other services like device doctor, a health and dental plan, and like help with appeals and like any student issues that a person can come up with. The CSU would try to help with. If there's a process for it, they make you like help you go through with it. And yeah, that's basically it. I decided to be a part of CSU because when I was a new student here, while I was attending the orientation, I kept hearing about CSU again and again, and the services they offered, like health and dental plan and all those things. And I was trying to figure out how it works. So I decided to follow CSU on Instagram. From there on, I saw them doing events. I'm not usually a party person, but they did treasure hunt the first year I was here. And I decided to take part in that. And I got to know not just about like the campus in general, because they'd hide stuff anywhere, so I'd have to go around campus and search. That made me get an idea of the campus, of people on campus, of how CSU works, kind of like what events they do and other things that they did. So it was also just around the time they said that they were doing elections for CSU. And that people could participate in it. Then they said you don't need any experience. They'll teach everything to you. You just they have their positions listed and then description under them, like what your interests are, and if they align with a certain position, then you should run for it. And at the time, the like events person Sophia, she kept telling people to just go for it if they feel that a particular position is calling to them. And I read the description for student affairs and I was like, I want to do that, and I just went for it. When I was campaigning during the elections, were significant differences from the first time and the second time and this election that happened now. Luckily, I always had very less competition in my position, whatever I ran for. There was only one person against me both times. So I would like to say it was maybe a little easy for me compared to if you had more members running. But I would just base this off probability. I'd go to as many people as I could. I think I went to 2,000 people the second time, and then just hope that even if 500 of them voted, that's something. The first time around, I kind of did something similar. I made little flyers and then just went around talking to people. I was a new student, people didn't know me. I only knew people from going into events in CSU and stuff, especially treasure hunt. So I just kept, that was my idea, that as many people as I could meet would know me. So I just kept going to them, telling them about what I want to do. And then they just some people would ask questions, others would not, but the more people you go to, the more chance you have. So it was just that. So the first time I ran for elections, people didn't really know me, so I did not encounter a lot of problems with complaints and stuff. But the second time around, many people knew me because I was already in CSU for a while, and people who were running also knew me. And there was a trend of a lot of complaints without just for the sake of it. I had a complaint against me in which the person who complained and the witness he put, there was no coordination in it. The witness itself said that they were the one forcing them. So there were lots of confusion. People were just complaining to just for the sake of it, basically, without any evidence, anything like that. And the people who actually wanted to complain couldn't come forward because when they wanted to remain anonymous to protect their identity, because social culture is a little bit different among my community. So if you if you go against someone, then people kind of see you like that you'd go against just anyone at all, so they wouldn't make you feel as welcome. That's why people hesitate a little bit to come forward and try to remain anonymous. So the people who actually wanted to complain and had real evidence couldn't, because then they couldn't remain anonymous if they wanted to show the evidence. So it was a little bit messy with the complaints. As elections keep moving forward, I think the complaints process and in general, the issue is getting worse because people want to remain anonymous, but then there's not enough evidence to prove that what happened really did happen, and people are getting away with things because of this, which means lots of people are doing unfair practices in the election and winning with it, which isn't really good for the board. The VP external role is basically focused on external advocacy and external relationships. So the relationships with other student unions or provincial or federal organizations like the Alliance of BC Students, CASA, those kind of things. And then with all levels of government, local, provincial, federal, most of the work done is based on lobbying, which is any student issues that actually need to be changed by the government. We have to lobby for those things to them. And there's a public record of all the lobbying done, so that's always there. Basically, so that's what the VP External does, basically, take the priorities that the board sets and brings them out to the government, to other student unions, find if there's anything in common, any advocacy that can be done as joint advocacy, those kind of things. I think the CSU board member, it's a paid position because it is a lot of work if you actually do all the things. So, the CSU says that people deserve, that's one of our principles, that people deserve to be paid for the work they do. Even for student internships and co-ops, we say that people should be paid when they do it. So it'll be pretty ironic if we made people do CSU work for free. There is a category for volunteers if someone wants to do that, but most of the stuff in CSU is paid because lobbying also by definition is if you lobby, you have to be paid for it. So that's also another aspect. And we're taking student fees and doing things, so someone, if they're putting their time in for all that work, they're compensated for it. To make sure people actually deserve the compensation they're getting, the board has practices in place. So if a committee member does not attend meetings, they don't get paid for it. They only get paid if they attend a meeting. As for board members, they're automatically paid, but if you miss 3 board meetings consecutively, you're removed from the board. That means you don't get paid for it anymore. And there's also all these rules in place, you can't just leave a meeting in between. That also counts as an absence. If you're late and your excuse is not justified, that also counts as absence. So there are rules in place. As for the executives, this is a little bit different. They get paid, and for them the board absences have to be 6 consecutive leaves, so that's a lot. And they can't really be removed unless by the students. The board can't remove an executive, only students can in an AGM or if they want to call a referendum, those kind of things. But there are rules in place for controlling the pay of executives who are not doing work. So basically, if a person misses 4 board meetings, 4 meetings in total, not just board meetings. So if a person misses 4 meetings, any committee, executive, or board, all in total, then they get reduced, 1/3 of their pay gets cut. If they miss 7, then 2/3, and 9 or more is complete pay cut. So even if an executive can't be removed, their pay can be cut if they're not doing the work that they're supposed to do. I think everyone is responsible for keeping board members accountable, including board members and students. Board members can bring up any issues they see with the president if someone's not doing their job, if they're being ignored. like collectives and committee members can bring up proposals to the executives, and then if an executive isn't hearing their idea at all without like giving it any chance, if it's a justified one, then they can make a complaint, anonymous or otherwise, to the president and see if the issue can be resolved. There are also other mechanisms in place, like all the rules that are put in. If a person feels like they're being broken by a particular person, they can bring it up at board. During the question period, people can ask questions about what work is being done. So there are some of the board like accountability methods for board members to hold each other. But I think students really should be involved because board members know all the rules about the CSU. They have all that knowledge, and sometimes they want to get things done, those kind of things, so they might try to get away with something or not, or maybe they're just making an honest mistake, who knows. So students really should be aware about what is going on with the CSU. All of our agendas, meeting minutes are public. Any decisions that are made that need students involved, that are made at the AGM or SAGM. So students really have the option to speak at any board meeting, speak at any other meeting, really, apply for committees, and they can always bring up any concerns that they're seeing. In fact, students have all the power. It's like a democratic process, right? So students can remove anyone they see not doing their job from the CSU. So there are a lot of meetings in CSU. Some are just like internally, some are with external partners, some are even with the university. We have regular check-ins with the university as well. So for a meeting, there's always an agenda, which is the list of all the items that is going to happen in the meeting. There's like proposals, event descriptions, all the explanation is in the agenda. With like why this is happening, what is the purpose behind it, how many people are going to attend it, and how much money is going to be spent on it, what amount of people is required to be in this meeting. All that is mentioned, and people get an agenda like a week or so before the actual meeting. And I would suggest reading through the agenda is really important if you want to participate actively in the meeting, because while the meeting is happening, you don't want to catch up on what is happening since the agenda is already there. And it also has reports of people who are doing the work, so if you have any questions, you can look through the report. Maybe they're answered, or maybe you'll have new questions if you read through them. During a meeting, you go through the agenda. If anything needs to be added or taken out, that is the first thing you need to do, because agenda is the first thing gets approved. Once it gets approved, that's how the meeting is going to go. So everyone introduces themselves. We do a land acknowledgement because we're occupying lands that are not traditionally ours, and we respect that. So after that, we go through the things, like if someone couldn't make a meeting for some reason, they can always send regrets, and those are also approved by whoever's attending the meeting. If people think someone's regrets are not justified, they can also choose not to approve them. That's always an option. And then any spending request, any policies, any events, whatever is in the agenda gets discussed at the board, and then people talk about it, and then people vote on it. So like if people think that this is good use of money, time, or like staff's power, like whatever that is, people vote on it. If something gets a majority vote, some of the things require 2/3, not just majority, depending on how important that is. And if it's like it was sprung in the meeting, those kind of things, like if something is urgent, something needs to be amended, those kind of things, people can always do that within the meeting. And then people vote on it, and then if anyone has any questions, they can ask that with their reports, and then the meeting kind of ends. Sometimes there are notices in the meeting that will be for the next meeting. Like you vote on them in the next meeting, but the notice gets given in the meeting before, so after a meeting is done, you could maybe look through them, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So for an absence, it is an unexcused. It has to be an unexcused absence, and an unexcused absence would be if you did not send regrets or any reason to not attend the meeting, or if you were late without a reason, or you left the meeting in between without a reason. Those are some of the reasons. If, say, you're ill, or you had an emergency, or you have an exam, or like you have a class that just came out of nowhere, those things, people are always willing to approve those kind of regrets because it isn't the person's fault, right? And CSU is very understanding because like they work with the students, so they're always willing to shift around schedules. Um, it helps to have regrets because like if there are more regrets than required, the number required for quorum, then the meeting can just be rescheduled. It's not just like to get people to be present or absent, it's also a record of like if thing can happen or not. So it's always helpful to have those. One of the reasons I was confident running for this position was because it was mentioned that no experience is required and you'll be taught everything. And that is true. When I came to the CSU the first time, didn't know much about Robert's rules, meetings, agendas, those kind of terms were pretty much new to me. And now I feel like I can comfortably chair a meeting anytime. I don't have to be aware about it. I can just look through the agenda and follow through. When you join the CSU newly, there's lots of training. Like there's a whole month of just trainings where they make you aware about all the policy positions that the CSU has, about Robert's rules, how meetings go through, how to look at an agenda, how to make one, how to chair a meeting. There's like multiple trainings. What is lobby compliance, all those kind of things. Like anything that needs to be learned, they have a training session for it. And there are multiple sessions throughout like the term as well. If someone misses one, those kind of things always are accommodatable. So yeah, when I got in, I got to attend all the training sessions. I felt pretty prepared. Like when you're new, it's kind of difficult to feel confident with it, but I knew that I had the hang of it. And then, like as soon as the term started, we had lots of new things coming in. Like you have to start like first year I was VP Student Affairs. You have to start planning for events like pretty soon because it takes time to get all the things in place. But everyone was very supportive, and they had like reports from past people, even if the previous executive before me, I did not get to meet them who were in my position, but the staff was very helpful when they had ideas and stuff of what I could do. And there's also like a brainstorm for annual planning, so you get to like talk what your ideas are, what from that is possible to do like in the university, like with the government, within the year, or like is it a multi-year project, those kind of things. Everything is discussed, and then like whoever's involved with a particular topic, they get to give their ideas. The staff helps make those ideas into like tangible things that can be achieved, recorded, those kind of things, and then that becomes an annual goal. So that goes into like annual operating planning, and then that is like what the whole year runs on, unless something different comes up within like, COVID or something like that. They're always willing to make changes. But once the annual plan is set, that is what everyone, like every executive and staff is assigned to a particular project. So there's like multiple projects under different people's names. There's intersection, and support is like available anytime. But that is what the people do throughout the year. So like that is their goals, and then they work on them however they can. So first year I was very excited, had tons of ideas, and then you kind of just learn that what is possible, what is not. That is also why the reason I ran for VP External the second year, because some of the things that I learned within my student affairs term, I couldn't have done them within the university no matter what. I had to go out and talk to the government or like other associations for them to move forward. And I really wanted to engage in that, so that's why I switched my position in the second year. So the first year, I was pretty new, as I said, and most of the AOPs revolved around events and like getting students engaged. We did get a lot of Instagram engagement, which was nice. Students always love to engage in more events and those kind of things. One of the significant things I was able to do was I had to meet with the registrar's office for about 6 months, but we were able to change the time ticketing priority from the number of credits completed to the number of credits remaining, which helped international students as well. So if someone has 3 credits remaining, they would get more priority over the other students because they only have 1 course left and shouldn't have to stick around the university for, however long that would take. But before it was the number of credits completed. So associate students would always fall short as compared to bachelor students, because bachelor students would be able to have more number of credits completed. So this kind of put everyone on a level field. It did take a long time, but they were able to do it. There were some systemic issues, so it actually got implemented this year, like when I was in my VP external role, but it was still good to see it come to completion. For this term, like most of my goals for VP external were long term. We were advocating for increased student seats on Senate, so that would require change to the Senate model itself. And we've been talking with everyone. There's support from our university administration, deans, other universities we're talking to. Once we have everyone on board, it would be easier to just go to the government and request a change in the Universities Act. So we're just in the stage of getting everyone together. And I feel like it is a multi-year project. So whoever comes next will have to carry this on for me. But it's been successful so far. The other thing we're trying to do is get a UPass equivalent for Sunshine Coast and now Squamish campus as well, which was like newly included. Because they don't have the UPass that we have. This project kind of got halted. We talked with UFVSUS, like they have a different card than us, so we're talking how it works out with them. Got good insight, saw how the whole process works, but then the Sunshine Coast is kind of giving free transit right to youth, and we're seeing if college students can be included in that as well. So this also has become a longer project than it was initially thought of. But I feel like if they do it for high school students and like in general students, they'd be willing to include university students, considering there's not a lot of them. And we'll see if something similar is possible at Squamish as well. But whatever works out, we'll figure out a way to include them all. Other than that, we did make a website for scholarships. Like international students are one of the student groups that doesn't get a lot of scholarships. And even in general, students aren't really aware of what scholarships are available to them, which means a lot of the money in the scholarships budget just keeps getting repeated every year, not just like with CSU, but also the university. And that's a lot of money that could go to students and is not, because they're confused. So we made a website, kind of cleared everything, try to make the application process a little easier. We did see a little increase, but we're hoping as the years move on, there would be more, because we want the money to get to the students and not just go back into the budget group, whatever it was. I mean, it's not even going to get spent on anything else. The only way it gets spent is if it goes to students. So that was one of the things. We also conducted a Tennessee Rights campaign, basically getting students aware, because every year new students come in here, don't really know how the housing works here. Housing is an issue, so we get students to understand their basic rights, what they can ask for, what they can't, those kind of things. Always have good attendance at those, so hopefully that's helped to people. One of the other things we want to do is a transit campaign. That transit has been like a very active conversation this year. Like changes were made, like every meeting we learned something new. We unfortunately didn't see a lot of changes for CAP personally, but we're hopeful that the new plan, that their investment plan that they're putting forth, that has like it increases the number of buses on a particular route that are like more frequently visited or that have more capacity needs, and CAP's 245 is on it. So when that gets funded, we'll definitely be included. So that's one good thing. It's a little sad that they'd have to increase the fares for it. Ideally, the federal government would fund it, but I mean, we're going and we're going to lobby for all these things. But CAP does benefit from it, as do many other routes that are like usually busy and don't have enough capacity as of now. So yeah, those are pretty much the updates for this year and the past year. As I have said, CSU really highlights this point that you don't need experience coming in. They provide all the trainings. What I would like to say to new board members is attend all of them, read all the documents that you can. If you don't understand something, feel free to reach out to staff. They're always helpful. I kind of hesitated at the beginning to reach out, feeling like I was asking too many questions, didn't know much, but they never made me feel that way. If I had a question, I could just shoot a text or an email or like just ask during meetings. It never bothered anyone, and I always got my answer. And I guess people who weren't asking questions also learned, so it was overall helpful for everyone. The other thing I would say is uh, everyone has great ideas when they come in, but make sure you check what has been done and what hasn't been, because sometimes people have tried things and they haven't worked. Not to say that you can't try the same thing again, but because situations change and maybe it'll be helpful now, but it's always good to have an idea of what has happened and what more can be done. I guess the ideal person for this role would be someone who cares about student issues, because it is difficult work talking with the politicians and like external partners when some of them don't understand your struggles or haven't heard about them, and you go there and you talk to them, it might feel like you're not making sense. So you really have to care about these things, and there's always staff to lean on. If you need any support, they'll do the research for you. They'll help you fix any mistakes that you might think you're making. So any person who really cares about the student issues, like we are all students, we have gone through these things. If a person can remember what issues they were facing and make sure that no one else faces them, even if it's after them, then I guess that person would be fit for this role. You also have to be a little okay with talking with everyone. Kind of sometimes there's not enough time to prepare for things, so a little awareness about current events and like whatever's going on with the government. And again, staff is there to help with that. You just kind of have to be a little bit aware about that, because that helps you be more prepared to talk about whatever issue you want to talk about.